Tonight, police are investigating after 4 people from one family were found dead inside a rural home near Neudorf. Also, March is Brain Health Awareness Month in Canada. We're catching up with a group where members are supporting each other through brain injury. Plus, the latest after a shocking bridge collapse in Baltimore.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, March 26th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. 4 adults are dead, all from the same family. Their bodies found at a farm near the village of Neudorf, northeast of Regina. Police are investigating the deaths as suspicious, but say they aren't looking for a killer. Alexander Kwan brings us the latest from the scene.
It's now quiet here at this rural farm a few kilometers northeast of the village of Neudorf. A few RCMP cruisers have come and gone from the scene, located roughly 115 kilometers northeast of Regina. Another police vehicle blocks off the approach to the property, where investigators say 4 people were found dead over the weekend. RCMP were called here to conduct a wellness check. When officers arrived at around 6 p.m. on Sunday night, they found 4 people dead. Police now say those 4 people are part of the same family, 2 adult children and 2 adult parents. CBC News has now confirmed that this property belongs to Joanne and Gary Bender. RCMP say the next of kin has been notified, but the identities of the deceased are not being made public. The coroner service has transported the bodies to Regina, where autopsies are scheduled for some time this week. Police say the deaths are considered suspicious, but at this point we're told there is no risk to public safety. The RCMP's major crime unit is set to stay on scene as they work with the coroner's service to determine what happened. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Neudorf, Saskatchewan.
The contract dispute continues between the provincial government and teachers. Classroom size and complexity is still the sticking point, and today, students in Saskatoon left their classrooms in protest, showing support for teachers. Kendall Latimer has more.
What do we want? Funding! When do we want it? Now!
Honks, cheers, and chants rang out as students gathered outside of a Saskatchewan Party politician's office, standing in solidarity with teachers.
We thought that it was time for us to take a stand because they're not listening to our teachers, so we wanted to show that we obviously all stand behind them.
This gathering was part of a bigger movement with students across Saskatoon and beyond walking out of the classroom. They say enough is enough.
The underfunding that our education has gotten for so long needs to stop, and the government isn't doing anything about it. So when the teachers are striking, the government doesn't care. The students want to start striking as well because we support the teachers.
These students say they don't take missing school lightly, but they feel compelled to do something because they felt unheard by the government throughout the negotiation process.
We're thinking about younger students who can't necessarily drive themselves to protests. It's a really important thing to be here and to fight for their education as well as ours. I know lots of people will be like, well, I'm in grade 12, so it doesn't really impact me. But at the end of the day, it's our neighbors and our nieces and nephews, and it's our community members that are going to be impacted by this. And I think it's something really important that's worth fighting for.
This contract dispute hasn't been easy for students. Job action has disrupted schooling and extracurriculars, and it's not clear what else could be affected going forward. But these students don't fault the teachers.
It's important to understand that sacrifices for our class can be made for the future of every other class that comes after us. Things like this need to be sorted out. They've been going wrong for years, and it's time that something changes.
They want the province back at the bargaining table, willing to negotiate on classroom complexity and size. Kendall Latimer, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The provincial government continues to highlight spending from last week's budget, and that includes a one-time top-up of $12 million in operational funding for post-secondary schools. The money's coming through an amendment to the multi-year funding agreement between the government and post-secondary education institutions.
According to the terms of the agreement, funding would have been flat in this last year. That was the agreement that was reached a number of years ago with the $60 million topping or funding that was provided in the first 2 years of that agreement. So I felt either, as opposed to executing a new 4-year funding agreement, we'd provide a top up in this year of the agreement as we move forward to negotiate and execute a new 4-year funding agreement.
The top up is a 2.2% increase over last year. Wyant says it was largely because of unexpected inflation these last few years. Overall, institutions will get about $724 million in operating and capital grants. That includes money for training seat expansions and capital projects to meet labor gaps in our healthcare sector. Universities and colleges have asked for stable, predictable funding. A breast cancer patient and medical social worker says the government isn't doing enough for overworked healthcare workers. Shannon Orrell-Bast was a guest of the opposition at the legislature today. She went through chemotherapy, radiation, a double mastectomy with no reconstruction, and immunotherapy treatments. She says the system is struggling.
Workers need to be well. That is my concern. I am here to advocate for the workers because those workers, I'm going to get emotional, they provide my care. So if they're not well, guess what? They're not there. You can put in infrastructure, you can put in machines, you can put in whatever you want, but people have to operate these and they need to be well.
The Minister of Health says he's met with Orrell-Bast and is aware of her concerns. Everett Hindley says the government is making efforts to increase staffing and recruit and retain nurses, doctors, and technicians. He says the recently announced breast assessment center in Regina will help get patients care sooner and more streamlined. A parliamentary committee is slated to review information involving a high-security laboratory after two scientists lost their jobs due to dealing with China. Against this backdrop, it's been announced Canada will have a second Level 4 high-containment lab. Capable of working with the most dangerous pathogens in the world, it will be in Saskatoon. Karen Pauls has more.
These days, Volker Gertz isn't just doing research.
Let's look at some results.
He's upgrading his existing lab at the University of Saskatchewan to open Canada's second Level 4 lab capable of handling the deadliest pathogens in the world.
Well, it's all about being ready for the next disease, right? I think the pandemic has shown us that Canada largely depended on other countries to do the critical research, but also develop vaccines.
I think it's great news.
Gary Kopinger was the head of the Special Pathogens Unit for the National Microbiology Lab until 2016. He says there is room for two Level 4 labs in Canada, one focused on basic science and public health, and Vito producing vaccines and therapeutics.
The big strength, I think, also is that Vito is not a government-owned operation. And which means that they have a lot more flexibility.
The downside could be sustainability.
Heinz Feldman ran the NML's Special Pathogens Unit from the time it opened until 2008. He says these labs are expensive to build and operate.
If you have a government-funded operational budget, that may be a safer platform. Money has to come in through grants, contracts, collaborations with industry, and so on.
As of last year, there were 51 biosafety Level 4 labs in 27 countries, roughly double the number 10 years ago. Another 18, including Saskatchewan's, are being planned or under construction. Experts say as more countries do research with dangerous pathogens, there are growing risks.
Risks are that you might become infected, that you might infect others, security concerns, who has access to the lab, who gets access to biological agents and those sorts of things.
Experts say Canada has some of the highest standards in the world, and Ottawa is doing even more to improve biosafety and biosecurity. A recent report found the top priorities are access to the containment area and the lab's physical and cyber integrity. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, it was a cool, clear day in downtown Saskatoon. That wind, though, whew, right across the province made things feel horribly cold, and after the wind will come the snow. Tyreek Reed will have a timeline for you in his forecast after the break. Stay with us. A container ship rammed into a bridge in Baltimore early this morning, snapping it and causing it to collapse. 2 people were rescued, 6 are unaccounted for. Katie Simpson has the latest.
Here's what we can see of what's left of the Key Bridge after this horrific disaster that took place early this morning. Pieces of metal debris are jutting out of the water, and just beyond what's left of the bridge is the cargo ship in question. Authorities say it was just before 1:30 this morning when the cargo ship experienced some sort of power issue as it was trying to leave the Baltimore harbor. That's when it collided with a support beam of this bridge, causing it to collapse into the water below. At the time, there was a construction crew filling potholes on this bridge doing routine maintenance work. 8 members of that crew were thrown into the water. 2 have been rescued, but at this time, 6 remain missing. President Joe Biden offering his support to the families of those going through trauma in this moment, saying there's nothing to indicate this was intentional.
Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here.
The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation into this incident. At this point, there's nothing to indicate that there was any structural issue with the bridge. What investigators will be focusing on is the ship and the critical moments leading up to the incident.
That is part of our investigation, where we look at in depth at safety information, anything that may have occurred prior to this, any sort of safety history with respect to the vessel, any sort of maintenance that was done to the vessel or component on the ship. We will look at all of that.
Thanks to Katie Simpson for that report. You can catch the National tonight for the very latest on this story.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. I don't know what power you have, but turn down the wind, please.
I will try my best, Sam. You know, I instantly regretted going on my walk during my lunch break today because, yeah, those winds were pretty gusty. We were seeing them gusting near 30 kilometers an hour in southern Saskatchewan. Still there right now, up in the north, a bit stronger. They're gusting near 40 and even 50 in some areas. And of course, it doesn't help that we're still sitting below seasonal throughout most of the province today. As we head down south in Regina right now, we're currently sitting at around -6 degrees in Regina, and of course a bit cooler in Saskatoon, -7 over there. And of course, with those wind chills, feeling much colder. And of course, with these wintry temperatures, we're also going to get some precipitation moving in tonight. That will start in the northwest and it will continue eastwards throughout the day tomorrow. And as we head into Thursday, we'll still see that system of snow moving in, but we're not safe down south either. We are going to get some precipitation moving in on Thursday night into Friday throughout the day as well. That will bring mostly snow, but also some rain to areas in the south, like right here in Regina and in Saskatoon as well. And that, once again, that will continue into the weekend ahead. So yeah, not quite done with the snow just yet. For the folks in the northwest that will be seeing that system starting tonight, by Wednesday night, we'll also see around 5 centimeters of snow in areas like La Loche and Buffalo Narrows. Heading into Thursday, we'll start to see that really start to accumulate. We're looking at around 17 centimeters in Buffalo Narrows and in La Loche. Down south, we'll start to see that snowfall around 7 centimeters in Regina and even 11 in Hudson's Bay. So yeah, that snow is really going to start to fall. And of course, with those systems, we're going to start to feel those stronger winds make their way in. Even down south on Thursday, we'll see those winds gusting near 50 kilometers an hour in some areas. So it's spring, but it's certainly not feeling like it just yet. But on Thursday, we are going to be above seasonal finally here in Regina. Of course, we will have to watch out for those gusty winds because of that system that is making its way in. And of course, we'll see that snowfall continue into Friday as well. But as we head further into the weekend and the week ahead, we'll finally start to see those temperatures warm up. We're looking at a high of 9 degrees on Tuesday, and a very similar story for our friends in Saskatoon as well. Thursday looking like the warmest day for folks there, but of course looking out for those winds. They will be gusting pretty strong, and that snowfall will continue into the weekend ahead. But of course, as we head into the week ahead, we will start to see those temperatures warm up. We're seeing temperatures near seasonal finally, but of course we just have to get through this snow, Sam.
You should have done that entire forecast in an evil villain voice.
I should have, but I didn't want to ruin people's day too much.
The snow will do that on its own.
It will.
Thanks, Ty.
No problem.
Children in northern Poland are decorating giant Easter eggs with designs paying tribute to their heritage. 20 decorated eggs will be on display at a shopping center until April 5th, and shoppers are being encouraged to vote for their favorite designs. We'll be back after the break. Tens of thousands of Canadians suffer brain injury every year. Resources for them across the country are patchy, but in some cases, they found a way to support each other. Our Natasha Lipney spent time with one such group in Regina.
If there was something in 2023 that did not make you happy, did not bring you joy, that you want gone from your life, we're going to write that on the plate. We're then going to safely smash the plate.
Holy moly!
This is a weekly affair. Not the plate smashing, but this group getting together at the Regina Public Library. It may be hard to tell, but they all have one thing in common. They're brain injury survivors.
I remember going to a support group meeting very early on and having to say, "Hi, I'm Barb Butler and I have a brain injury," and I couldn't say it.
That was 30 years ago. Barb Butler had just moved to Regina. Then she was in a car crash with her family. She would spend the next 2 months in hospital and a rehab center.
And trust me, I had the biggest pity party for about the first 6 months of my life until one day I looked around and realized no one's at the party but you, Barb. So you might as well just get on with it. So that's what I had to do.
5 years after her accident, Barb founded a weekly survivors group in Regina. It's supported by the Saskatchewan Brain Injury Association. She's still running it today.
Sometimes I will ask them a question about what do they think about some political issue, and they have an opinion, but no one else cares what their opinion is. I think they feel comfort that they're not alone, that someone else knows what they've been going through. Come on in, Brajesh.
Right here. Brajesh Patel is a newer member of the group. The 28-year-old suffered a brain injury in a car crash on March 1st, 2020. It was isolating. His 2 friends in the car died, and he woke up in hospital to a global pandemic.
There's still part of the plate. If you want to kind of aim right there without hitting me. Attaboy, good one. Good.
Most of the time, Brajesh deals with his brain injury alone.
Let's hear you say, "And these black and yellow backpacks?"
Essa nuage June Saskatoon.
When he was first recovering from the crash, Brajesh Googled how to keep the brain sharp. Learning a new language was one suggestion. He chose French.
Nice. Now practice saying yellow.
Jaune.
Also on that list, reading, exercising, playing an instrument. These things keep his brain busy, but the Brain Injury Association offers him something more.
You get to be social again, because of the brain injury, because of the accident, it had just disconnected me from the world.
Carla Eckert was also looking for something more during her recovery process, so she joined this weekly drumming group in the fall of 2023. It's also run by the Brain Injury Association.
Carla, I know you can kick this off for us. So I'm gonna turn the wheel over to you, okay? Does that sound good?
Sure, holy moly. In May 2022, Carla's husband noticed she wasn't acting like her normal self. They thought she had COVID-19. It turned out to be encephalitis, or brain inflammation. She's since surprised her doctor with a speedy recovery, and her attitude is a big part of that.
We are all superpower brain injury survivors. I have a little nickname for it called Survivors Group and Drumming Group, and just want everybody to know how strong we are.
Carla is a big fan of purple and of inspirational t-shirts.
Well, it's on my shirt.
I see no good reason to act my age, so
I was going to say I do not want to act my age.
act my age.
These peer support groups have come a long way since Barb's brain injury 30 years ago. But the members say they can't simply rely on each other. That's why they're fighting for better support at all levels.
Decades of Liberal and Conservative governments have failed to support the more than 1.5 million Canadians currently suffering the consequences.
In June 2022, NDP MP Alistair McGregor introduced a private member's bill to establish a national brain injury strategy. It calls for better awareness, prevention, and treatment of brain injuries, including their impact on mental health issues, homelessness, and addiction. And it calls for a consistent, well-funded approach across the country. Barb and others in the Regina support group have been writing letters to try to push this bill forward in Parliament.
I would hope that the stigma of having a brain injury goes away, that even with the brain injury, you are still you. I would hope that everyone that sustains a brain injury receives the same kind of care and treatment everywhere in Canada.
These days, Barb doesn't have trouble introducing herself in group sessions.
I'm a grandmother, a mother, and a survivor of an acquired brain injury, and I love my life, and my life loves me back.
She likes to say her brain injury didn't happen to her, but for her, so that she could help others. That's apparent every week at the Regina Library.
I think I'm about all hammered out for the day. You should feel lightened and unburdened because all those things that you want gone are now, according to me, they're gone. So this is like a new day, a new beginning. Let's just carry on being positive.
Natasha Lipney, CBC News, Regina.
And Tyreek is back with one last look at your weather.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so feeling those cooler temperatures tonight once again, feeling colder because of that wind chill here in Regina, waking up tomorrow morning. Still feeling that colder air, gonna feel like minus 24 because of that wind chill. Things will start to warm up as we head into the afternoon, getting closer to that daytime high, but once again, still below seasonal for this time of the year. In Saskatoon, also gonna be met with the cold night tonight, feeling more like minus 21 because of that wind chill, and heading into tomorrow morning, we're still going to be waking up to that chillier air. But as we head into the afternoon, we'll be met with mainly sunny skies, but once again, still sitting below seasonal in Saskatoon.
All right, thanks, Ty.
No problem, Sam.
All right, something quirky before we go. Ostriches can run as fast as 70 kilometers per hour, most of them on savannas and open woodlands in Africa, but not this guy. Oh. This young ostrich was seen running down a busy street in South Korea, weaving in and out of traffic. The 4-year-old bird busted out of a local zoo. He ran into a car park where eventually he was captured with a net. The feathered fugitive is now back in the zoo near Seoul, recovering. It was a great attempt for him. That is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or you can download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.